yesterday. They looked him over, gave him some meds, sent him home. The meds worked. His headaches have subsided, and he's on the mend, doing great. So that's quite wonderful. And let's see, Susan Kennedy. I don't know why she came up positive, but she doesn't have any symptoms and hasn't had any symptoms, and her quarantine period is almost up, about 2 days away, so she doesn't have it. Andrew, it turns out he does not have it. Nobody's catching COVID-19 at church. Just not happening. So God's got our back just like He always has and always will. He's not gonna mess with us on that. So what about you? Praises. And you're glad to be home. Oh. Wow. That was it. That's a piece of cake. That's easy and cheap. Easy and cheap. I do. You know, I missed an appointment this week. I don't know if it went off or not. Ann and Stephen reminded me that I missed an appointment this week next door. I don't know how I missed it, but I guess I was over there on that job and didn't hear it go off or something. I don't know. I'll have to call him and apologize. So I don't usually miss appointments, but I sure missed one this week. Oh, your neighbor. Yeah, I was supposed to meet him and look that over this yesterday, but I clean missed the whole appointment. But yesterday I was tools in hand and sweating up a storm all day. So I don't know if I was thinking very clearly or not. But anyway, I missed the appointment. So, but seeing you reminded me that it's your neighbor, so I missed the appointment. So at least I can go try to correct what I did. Who else has a praise? Gary. Amen. Amen. Now work is, yeah, I got way more than I can do at the moment. So, but that's okay. I learned how to do that kind of stuff, solve those problems. Those are good problems. Opportunities are often clothed in the guise of a problem. God's good at turning problems into opportunities. Ask Daniel and Joseph and some of those guys if God's good at turning problems into opportunities. Who else has a praise? No. An old one? It is? Did it come off your trailer? Oh, okay. You didn't say that. I just thought you were, somebody sent you a new tire. I didn't know. I reckon that angel's holding that trailer up, running along beside that trailer, holding that thing. Yeah, yeah. All right. Who else? Anybody? Yes, Justin.
Baby appointment today, and the baby's nice and healthy and everything. Pregnancy.
Who is that?
Tabitha.
Oh, Tabitha. Oh, the baby appointment.
Baby appointments. Baby's looking nice and well.
The yet to be born baby appointment. Cool. Elias's little sister. Yeah. Okay. I can't remember who requested it. I guess I could look it up on my phone or someplace, but someone asked me to comment on and study with you Job chapter 14. Job chapter 14. So we're going to do that. There's some things that in chapter 14 and also back in chapter 7 that really do relate to what we're going through right now with this virus that's going around. But if you're going to study Job 14, you really need to back up, because Job's answer that concludes in chapter 14 begins in chapter 12. Now we won't get go all the way back to chapter 12 to do that, but Job is answering the accusations of his friends. That's a sentence that doesn't sound right. The accusations of his friends. Your friends aren't supposed to make accusations, are they? But they were sure enough doing it. They out and out blatantly called him a liar. What kind of friend does that? Sorry, friend. Yes, that is the kind that does that. Yes, yeah, that was our example when we were learning that Job was the one that famous for his sorry friends. But we'll start over here in chapter 13. By the way, Job, after they called him a liar, Job answers them in chapter 13. He said, "But ye are forgers of lies, ye are all physicians of no value. Oh, that you would altogether hold your peace, and it should be your wisdom." He said, "Oh, that if you were just wise enough to shut up." Verse 5 of chapter 13. Now, Job goes on, and he's talking to God now. He moves his conversation from the friends that really are not to God. He starts talking about God, and then he starts talking to God. Here in chapter 13, verse 15, he says, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. But I will maintain mine own ways before him. He also shall be my salvation, for an hypocrite shall not come before him. Hear diligently my speech and my declaration with your ears. Behold, now I have ordered my cause. I know that I shall be justified. Who is he that will plead with me? For now, if I hold my tongue, I shall give up the ghost." He says, and now he's talking to God, and he says, "Only do not two things unto me, then will I not hide myself from thee. Withdraw thine hand far from me, and let not thy dread make me afraid." Job's asking God for for two things that God will not, ask God not to do these two things. Number one is to withdraw his hand from him. I'm with Job. I don't ever want God to withdraw his hand from my life. And let not thy dread make me afraid. I don't want to live in fear, Job says. Don't let me live in fear, Lord. And then he goes on. He says, then call thou, and I will answer, or let me speak, and answer thou me. How many are mine iniquities and sins? Make me to know my transgression and my sin. Now, there's a couple of things right here that we ought to notice as we're going through this. One of them is that Job says that God is going to be his salvation. He is going to be his salvation, for an hypocrite shall not come before him. Job admits here in verse number 23 that he is a sinner. He's not trying to pretend he's not. What's the difference in just a sinner and a hypocrite? See what? Yeah, a hypocrite's pretending that he's not. It's not your sin that makes you a hypocrite. It's pretending that it's not there that makes you a hypocrite. He says, wherefore hidest thou thy face, and holdest me for thine enemy? Wilt thou break a leaf driven to and fro, and wilt thou pursue the dry stubble? For thou writest bitter things against me, and makest me to possess the iniquities of my youth. Thou puttest my feet also in the stocks, and lookest narrowly upon all my paths. Thou settest a print upon the heels of my feet. And he as a rotten thing consumeth, as a garment that is moth-eaten. And then we begin chapter 14. He says, man that is born of woman is of few days and full of trouble. Now, first of all, that's just a reference to a human being, not that it's, ladies, that it's your fault. That's not the reference here, okay? That's not what he's trying to say. You could take that. Yeah. He cometh forth like a flower and is cut down. He fleeth also as a shadow and continueth not. And dost thou open thine eyes upon such an one, and bringest me into judgment with thee? Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? Not one. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. Turn from him that he may rest, till he shall accomplish as an hireling his day. I want you to go back to, we'll go further on this later, but I want you to go back to chapter 7. And Justin, why don't you prepare to read Hebrews 9:27, and then we're going to go back to chapter 7 of Job, and we're going to read about 3 different passages here in Job. And these are all passages from Job, not from his pseudo friends. You got it, Justin?
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this, the judgment.
It's appointed unto man once to die, and after this, the judgment. Some people believe that that's just talking about the fact that everybody has to die. Many believe that the appointment aspect of that verse states that there is an appointed time that we are going to die. Now, certainly God knows when we're going to die. I mean, that's kind of, it should be obvious to any Christian that's been reading their Bible at all. God's foreknowledge is infinite. It's complete. He knows exactly when we're going to die. But what we don't always understand I tried to talk to a friend of mine about this not long ago, and he just wanted to argue about it, and I didn't want to argue, so I moved on to something else. But what do you think? Is there an appointed time for your death? I mean, I'm not just talking about God knows when it is. I'm talking about God has already predetermined and decided when it's going to be and how and why and all sorts. Do you believe that? Well, people say, well, the length of your life can be changed. Are there scriptures that bear that out? Honor thy father and mother, that thou mayest live long on the earth. Got 15 more years. Yeah, that's Hezekiah, I think. What? Exactly. Yeah, and God honors that, but he also knows that the appointed time. Here, Job tells us, there's 3 passages in Job that tell us very clearly that God has set bounds that we're not going to live 1 second past. Now, if that's true, how does that affect what we're going through right now? Does that have an effect on what we're dealing with COVID-19 and all the scare about? Well, let's look and see. Let's just look and see if this is really true. In Job chapter 7, verse 1, Job asks a question. He says, Is there not an appointed time to man upon earth? Well, he's asked that question. Are not his days also like the days of an hireling? As a servant earnestly desireth the shadow, and as an hireling looketh for the reward of his work. What's a servant desiring the shadow? It's simple. He's looking for the shadow to hit the sundial for quitting time. That's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about here. He's looking, hoping. Yeah. Haven't we all wished for 5 o'clock or whenever quitting time was? So yeah, it's been like that. So he's talking about. He compares it to the days of an hireling. A hireling is a hired servant. A hired servant starts at a certain time and quits at a certain time, and that's what he's comparing man's appointment on earth to. He's got to start and he's got a quitting time. Very, very well illustrated here to Job. And he asked the question. He didn't answer it, but what is the answer? Yes, it's an obvious yes. Of course they are. Now, if you go to chapter 14, where we're studying and where I was asked to comment on this, and I'm not sure what part of this who was looking for it, but there's a lot in here. One of the things he says is verse number 5, it says, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee, thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. Now, is he talking about the border of Texas and he can't go to another state? What bounds are he talking about? What's the context talking about? He's talking about the date that he can't go past that date. I am going to live right up until my appointed date, and I'm going to die, COVID-19 or no COVID-19. If that's true, and this is 3 times now we just read it, and we're going to read it one more here in a minute. If that's true, and God obviously says that it is, why would I worry? Why would I fear? Now, I believe in being sensible. because God tells us to be sensible. He tells us to be wise. You don't go through a COVID-19 ward and go through there kissing everybody. I mean, that is just not what you want to do. Jesus, when Satan tried to get him to do something foolish like that, he got an answer from the Lord. What was his answer? Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. And if you tempted the Lord and you just went out and tried to get COVID-19 just to prove that you're not going to die from it, you might just die from it, because that may well be your appointed time. God said, before the foundation of the world, God said, well, that one right there is pretty stupid. He's going to do this, this, and this, and that's when he's going, right there. And so it's I tell you what it's like. It's like the guy that tried tithing. Well, that's just it. You either do it or you don't. Well, I tried tithing and it didn't work. Well, God obviously didn't know that you were going to quit 3 months after you tried, as you said you would start. So, yeah, I wonder why that the promise didn't hold, because you didn't keep your end of it. Anyway, that's kind of goofy. But down here in verse 14 as well, Job says, if a man die, shall he live again? And then he says, and that's another one of Job's yes questions, is it not? He says, all the days of my appointed time will I wait till my change come. What change is he talking about? Yeah? This life to the next. So I think it's pretty evident here that God's telling us that there is an appointed time for each one of us. And we're not going to go past that boundary, nor are we going to be taken out before we get to that boundary. I don't know about you, but God's Word just gives me comfort in all kinds of different ways. I mean, I know that as I'm getting older, and I know that God's going to take care of me. I'm not worried about it. I may not have all my ducks lined up in a row and got enough money in the bank. It's going to last me this long, and till I'm 108, because I'm going to die before I'm 106. So there's a little left over for the kids. None of that. I know that God's going to take care of us, because that's His character. That's who He is. He's going to do that. It doesn't mean that I should just spend every dime I've got and just go sit on the couch and say, okay, Lord, take care of me. Doesn't mean that at all. God tells us to be sensible. But it doesn't diminish His word, and it doesn't change His promise. It's just pretty wonderful to be one of God's children and to be under the fountain of His incredible blessings and His care. Peter said it really well. He said that cast all your care upon Him, for He careth for you. That's how can I be afraid knowing that God cares for me? I don't want to go through COVID-19. I hear it hurts. Paula and Mike testified that it's painful. So I don't like testing my sugar, but I do it, That little thing goes off, and I wish I could know exactly where those little nerves were so I could miss them every time, but I only miss them about a third of the time, and the rest of the time it's, oh, man. And, get a spot tattooed, they would move. They'd move around if I did that. But anyway, all right, let's go back. Uh, his days are numbered, they're predetermined. It's right there. Turn from him that he may rest till he shall accomplish as an hireling his day. And he says, for there is hope of a tree, if it be cut down, that it will sprout again, and that the tender branch thereof will not cease. I think of this verse every time I look out our kitchen window. We had a live oak tree out there. It got to be a pretty good size. It was about 9 or 10 inches at the very base. And I got Joshua to come and cut it down and take it out. It's a beautiful little tree. But its pollen sent her into a tizzy fit every time that thing started to pollinate. And of course, then after we got that one gone, we looked at the just another 10 feet away, and there's all kinds of them sprouting up there. But that stump, we cut it dead level with the ground and didn't worry about it. But every week there's new little live oak sprouts coming up around that stump. Every week there's new ones. And it says, for there is hope of a tree, if it be cut down, that it will sprout again, that the tender branch thereof will not cease. And boy, sure enough, that is exactly what it does. But it gets mowed, and it has to do it all over again. Though the root thereof wax old in the earth, and the stalk thereof die in the ground, yet through the scent of water it will bud, and bring forth boughs like a plant. But man dieth and wasteth away. Yea, man giveth up the ghost, and where is he? As the waters fail from the sea, as the flood decayeth and drieth up, so man lieth down and riseth not, till the heavens be no more. They shall not awake, nor be raised out of their sleep. Oh, that thou wouldst hide me in the grave, that thou wouldst keep me secret, until thy wrath be past, and thou wouldst appoint me a set time. There it is again. And remember me. If a man die, shall he live again? All the days of my appointed time. There it is again. Will I wait till my change come? Thou shalt call, and I will answer thee. Thou wilt have a desire to the work of thine hands, for now thou numberest my steps. Dost thou not watch over my sin? My transgression is sealed up in a bag, and thou sewest up mine iniquity. And surely the mountain falling cometh to naught. The rock is moved out of its place. The waters wear the stones. Thou washest away the things which grow out of the dust of the earth, and thou destroyest the hope of man. Thou prevailest forever against him, and he passeth, and thou changest his countenance and sendest him away. His sons come to honor, and he knoweth it not. And they are brought low, but he perceiveth it not of them. But his flesh upon him shall have pain, and his soul within him shall mourn. The last verse of chapter 14 is the commentary upon the first verse of chapter 14. Man that is born of woman. Wasn't for you women, men. There wouldn't be any men born of man that is born of woman is a few days, and full of trouble. Who else said that we are a few days? Yeah, Solomon, yeah. Huh? Well, probably somewhere. I'm just thinking of James. Your life is like a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then passeth away. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Well, we're all sons of Adam, but you're talking about directly. I frankly have never even asked that question of myself. Justin, you have any comment on that? Harley, what about you? You've done all that genealogy jazz. Job, a son of Adam or son of Noah? I couldn't quite hear you. Well, there were dinosaurs, so it had to be antediluvian. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't a son of Noah, because Noah lived an awful long time before he got on the boat. What was it, 600 and something? Yeah. 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 All right. Well, I don't know about that, but anyway, he was old. I'll tell you that. So, uh, was it anyone here that asked me to go through chapter 14? Well, it couldn't be somebody here, because never do we have the person here that asked me that when we actually do this. Josh? Well, yeah, probably was. Probably was. Uh, what is your experience about few days and full of trouble? Full of trouble. Man that is born of woman is a few days and full of trouble. Has your life been full of trouble? Be honest. Either. Both. Well, I know that on a regular clockwork kind of basis, things will get things under control. They'll get going, basically moving along, and I'll get a phone call, or I'll get a text message, or invariably, I can't go for very long without something named trouble showing up at the door. It'll be a grandchild, it'll be a son or daughter, it'll be a friend, it'll be you, one of y'all. But it's always something or somebody. And well, that's true, I guess, but I can't fix everything. Can't fix all problems. But I do know who can. But the Lord doesn't always choose to fix all our trouble. Sometimes in the case of Job, he piles it on. Trouble is trouble. How do you feel about trouble? But when it comes, it strengthens you. But how come you never see that attitude when it shows up? When trouble shows up, it's, oh man, here we go again. Well, it does a lot of good to get upset about it. I've noticed that. It really does a lot of good to get upset when trouble comes. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't. My tough day is actually a pretty good day now that I think about it. Do you think Satan would enjoy giving us what he gave Job? Yeah. Well, All right. And he said, as a matter of fact, I have. As a matter of fact, I have. But I don't think so. I doubt. I'm not. I love that thin sliced bacon because it cooks up so quick. Instant gratification. The Job was wishing that God would hide him in the grave until all this suffering that was over with. That's verse 13. That's his prayer in verse 13. You want to hear what a sorry friend sounds like? Then answered Eliphaz the Temanite and said. Now remember, this is Job. This is after Job just got through telling him that he's as wise as they are, and they're not. They don't have any knowledge that he doesn't have. It's Eliphaz the Temanite said, "Should a wise man utter vain knowledge and fill his belly with the east wind?" That's pretty complimentary. Should he reason with unprofitable talk, or with speeches wherewith he can do no good? Yea, thou castest off fear and restrainest prayer before God, for thy mouth uttereth thine iniquity, and thou choosest the tongue of the crafty. Thine own mouth condemneth thee, and not I. Yea, thine own lips testify against thee. No, that's what Job said. He said they were, they were liars. They were speaking from their own imaginations. Well, that's about, it's probably about prayer time anyway. Any questions or comments on this passage here that we've studied tonight, looked at? I don't know how much study we did, but we looked at some cool stuff. And next time you see a little sprout coming up next beside a big old stump, you're going to look at it and you say that, man, it doesn't work like that for us. Okay, prayer requests.